Thank you. We will begin with a motion.
I would like to make a motion to approve the remote electronic attendance of 2nd Ward Alderman David Parker, 3rd Ward Alderman Mike Wendt, 6th Ward Alderman Kevin Schoonmaker, Alderman at Large Sonia Berg at the Committee of the Whole and the Council meetings of August 18, 2020.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Alderman Williams.
Aye.
Parker.
Aye.
Wendt.
Aye.
Potter.
Aye.
Moyer.
Aye.
Schoonmaker.
Aye.
Waldron.
Aye.
Berg.
Aye.
8 ayes, no nays.
That motion carries. Thank you very much. Are there any questions on the agenda this evening? Hearing none, we'll begin with the Committee of the Whole agenda items. Item number 1, 2020-2024 Consolidated Plan and 2020 Annual Action Plan. KJ Whitley, Community Development Program Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening. Tonight, the Community Economic Development Department is seeking approval of the 2020 through 2024 Con Plan, as well as the 2020 Annual Action Plan. The Con Plan and the Annual Action Plan are required by HUD because we are a CDBG entitlement community. We've been one since 1974. So
Excuse me. KJ, can you speak directly into the microphone?
Is the microphone on?
It kind of fades in and out for me.
Is this better?
It's great.
All right.
Thank you.
No problem. This is our 46th year in receiving money from HUD, so that's a great thing for our community. The Consolidated Annual Action Plan is a 5-year plan. Every 5 years, HUD asks us to look at and develop a strategic plan. So the 2020 through the 2024 Annual Consolidated Plan is our 5-year strategic plan. And in that 5-year strategic plan, we look at the priority needs, we look at the priority goals, and then we try to develop projects and activities to achieve those goals. I know it's a rather large document that we sent you guys. So in developing the strategic plan, we took information from HUD's strategic plan, as well as the City of Moline's, as well as the City of Moline's priority goals, citizen participation, and then the 2 studies that we had done, the analysis of impediments and the housing needs assessment. And that's how we came up with our priority needs. So our needs are developed around housing, infrastructure, public services, public facilities, and home ownership, and job creation and economic development. In order to achieve those needs, some of our goals are providing affordable housing, code enforcement, preserving and improving our neighborhoods, emergency housing assistance, public service assistance, and to increase economic opportunities in the administration of the programs. So overall, we talked about the goals and the priority needs and how we developed our strategic plan. Basically, the 2020 is the first chapter of that plan. And these are the activities, projects that we are recommending to council for approval. If there's any specific questions, I can certainly answer those.
Hearing none.
Okay, well then tonight we're seeking approval again of the 2020 Con Plan through 2024, as well as the 2020 Annual Action Plan and the budget.
Motion to approve. Second.
We have a motion by Alderman Waldron and a second by Alderman Potter. Is there any discussion of the plan? Hearing no discussion, roll call, please.
Alderman Williams.
Aye.
Parker.
Aye.
Wendt.
Aye.
Potter.
Aye.
Moyer.
Aye.
Schoonmaker.
Aye.
Waldron.
Aye.
Berg.
Aye.
8 ayes, no nays.
That motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, KJ. The next item is FMB Change in Terms Note 61379, Carol Barnes, Finance Director. Hi, Carol.
Hi, thank you, Your Honor. We are very pleased to bring forward for council's consideration a change in terms to the city's current outstanding note with First Midwest Bank. Currently, we have a fixed rate of interest at 4.2%, and we were able to negotiate a variable rate of interest at 0% over the prime rate, which is currently at 3.25%. The future savings from this change in terms is estimated to be about $10,000 over, it's just slightly over a 3-year term left on that loan. Currently, we have an outstanding principal of a little in excess of $610,000, and there is no prepayment penalty, so we can pay off additional principal at any time, which is a good thing, especially if with a variable rate, if the interest rate did happen to move over the next 3 years, we'd certainly want to get out of it and probably prepay the loan off. And then lastly, the entire savings will be realized by the water fund. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Motion to approve.
Oh, I think we have yeah. We can do the motion first. Alderman Potter has a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a second by Alderman Waldron. Is there any discussion? Alderman Schoonmaker?
Did you say?
I don't think he heard you.
Alderman Schoonmaker?
Hi, thanks. Carol, we had talked a little bit about this. There's pretty good excess in those funds that are going to receive that savings. We had talked about maybe taking some additional money and paying that down to hopefully find some additional savings. Did you dig in? Were you able to dig into that a little further? And what are your thoughts on that?
Yes, I really appreciate you thinking that through, Kevin. I was able to take a look, and currently the water fund has a net available cash reserves in an excess of a little over $2.9 million. And if we equate that as a percentage of our total operating expenditures, it's about 31% of our cash reserves. And if we were to draw down, say, even half of it, about $300,000, our percentage of net cash to expenditures would still be in excess of 27%. And it would save us in excess of $30,000 instead of the 10, and it would shave off about a year and a half off of the term of the loan.
And you would keep making the payment that's planned for the whole thing?
Yes, we keep the payment at
accelerate
$50,000. Yeah.
Any other comments on that? I'll make a motion otherwise.
Alderman Went?
Is there any other outstanding debt that the water has other than this one?
No, not in the water fund. I am looking at, it's the WPC. I believe that's correct, it's WPC. It's our EPA loan. And we are looking at, if we can revise that down even 0.25%, we could be looking at very sizable savings in excess of $1 million. But the process and the hoops to go through with the EPA, it's a long drawn out process, but I'm working on that. I'm hoping here within the next couple of months we'll get an answer.
All right, thank you. Go for it, Kevin.
Alderman Burke?
Carol, just checking to see if they dropped the rate on us. Is that what you said?
Yes, they dropped the rate from 420 down to 325. It is a variable rate on prime, but with the interest rate currently so low, we anticipate that rate to probably stay right about that amount for some time to come at least. And again, I'll be watching it, and if things change, we'll certainly come back in front of council.
Thank you, Carol.
Anywhere else?
Could you repeat yourself, Alderman Burke?
Thank you. I was asking because I wanted to see if it was worth it to shop the rate at any other financial institutions.
We actually considered that. This is an unsecured loan, and to get the prime interest rate right now with being unsecured, it's a pretty good loan. I mean, a pretty good rate. So no, I did not shop the rate.
Okay, thank you.
Wait,
Alderman Schoonmaker?
Your Honor, I don't know if anybody else is getting it, but there's a whole lot of background noise. If somebody could check their mute button, that would be.
Yeah, I think that somebody's got some background. I think it might be Alderman Berg, but.
Berg doesn't have headphones, so it's reverbing through her speakers.
Okay.
Somebody keeps muting mine. I don't think I have background. Do you think so?
It is you, Alderman Berg. So when we unmute you, it's because you don't have headphones and it's reverbing through your speakers.
I do have headphones on.
Oh, she does have headphones on.
It's coming out of her speakers.
Yeah, I have headphones on.
It's something to do with your speaker system. Alderman Berg, could you do a favor of calling in? Do you know how to call in?
It might just be your internet connection because it's
I
really
know.
choppy.
So if she calls in, it'll be all right.
Yeah.
Okay. So, Carol, can you tell me again the number? It's 600 and I'm looking for it here.
It's $610,549 is the outstanding principal.
So, do you have I would think that we could reduce that by half or round it down to 300,000 or, somewhere in that. Do you have a recommendation that you're comfortable with?
Yes, upon looking at this, I would be comfortable with 300,000.
Okay, so my motion is, are you saying to leave the balance at 300,000 or reduce it by 300,000?
I mean, we could do either. It's right in the same change, but if you want to reduce it by 300,000, those were the numbers that I had just given you.
Okay. I make a motion to reduce that loan by 300,000 and accept we've already made a
So,
motion.
yeah, Alderman Schoonmaker, we have a motion on the floor. Are you offering an amendment?
Yeah, I'd offer amendment that we reduce the loan by $300,000 from reserves.
Second.
We have a second, or we have a motion to amend by Alderman Schoonmaker and a second by Alderman Moyer. Is there any discussion on that amendment? Hearing none, let's take a vote on the amendment. Roll call, please.
Alderman Williams?
Aye.
Parker?
Aye.
Went?
Aye.
Potter?
Aye.
Moyer?
Aye.
Schoonmaker?
Aye.
Waldron?
Aye.
Berg?
Aye. Is that better?
No nays?
Oops, sorry, guys.
I think it is better.
Yeah, it is better.
My computer's gone crazy. Sorry. So the amendment carries. We now have an amended motion on the floor to consider. Is there any discussion before we take the vote for the amended motion? Roll call, please.
Alderman Williams?
Aye.
Parker?
Aye.
Went?
Aye.
Potter?
Aye.
Moyer?
Aye.
Schoonmaker?
Aye.
Waldron?
Aye.
Berg?
Aye.
8 ayes, no nays.
That motion carries. Thank you, Carol.
Thank you, Your Honor. Thank you.
We don't have any other this evening, so we'll be moving to our informational items. We'll begin with the administrator's update. Marty Vonix.
Thank you, Mayor, City Council. Good evening. Can everybody hear me out in internet land? Okay. Just want to give an update on the storm last week and the continued cleanup effort by the city. As of this morning, Public Works staff has shifted their storm cleanup priority to address the main routes around the city and around particularly the schools. Moline schools are scheduled to open on Monday, and clearing the sidewalks and boulevards along the high traffic routes was considered essential to those schools to ensure the safety of the students walking to school. Yep. Here. Oops. So you'll see in these pictures, there's tree branches and limbs along the sidewalks leading to the schools. And so Public Works has said we're gonna concentrate on those areas first. And then once we get those areas clean, then we're gonna go back to the north-south system that we're doing. And so in addition, city crews are also concentrating on parks and the public property near shelters and playgrounds where some activities are still occurring this summer. And so they're doing a good job in that. Residents have been very cooperative in placing their debris on the parkways and alleys, and the city will pick up from both areas so residents can still put debris where it's easiest for them to locate that debris. But we ask them not to block the sidewalks if they can, not to block streets or alleys so that traffic and pedestrians can easily pass. I do want to note that there was some confusion on whether or not we're taking trees off of private property. And there's a picture of a parkway tree that landed on a house. In cases like this or this, we are using Public Works crews to remove those trees off those houses because they were part of the parkway or public property that is adjacent to the street. But if it's just a tree on a private property that's fallen on a home, we still do not go onto private property to remove those trees. None of the tree debris has been brought to the landfill. It's either been taken to Rainey's or it's been taken to Riverside Park, depending upon the proximity of the work being done. The waiver on brush and branches and pickup continues, as does the requirement for stickers on bags as well. So even with all the storm damage, we've had ongoing discussions, myself with Public Works, and we're going to continue those tomorrow. We do not want to neglect or slow down on any ongoing mowing or maintenance needs of the city. And so I'm meeting with the staff tomorrow. We're going to be talking about a number of things, but including using potentially, these are options, overtime, contracting out and or reassigning staff from other parts of utility, like for example, utilities, which is already occurring, because we do not want any diminishment of services as we go through this process. And so I want to let the staff and council know that we're doing that, and then if whatever decisions we make, I'll be reporting back to the council as soon as possible what we decide to do. So that's the story on storms and storm maintenance. Any questions?
A couple of questions. So it was reported to the press by staff that the mowing would be what would be hurt. So is that considered the lowest priority at Public Works, the mowing, or why was that reported?
I'm still working on trying to find out the answer to that.
Okay.
But I don't think it's a lower priority. It's the priority in my discussions with JD and Rod is still mowing is paramount as is cleanup. So.
Okay. Because I would like to, have an opportunity for the council to adjust policy if it is impacting the services to the community.
Right.
So if it could be brought back, and then if you set a plan, could you please communicate it out to the
Absolutely,
council?
I will.
Because we don't want to wait till the next
Right.
meeting. And then regarding overtime, so the council had discussed that, I think it was in April, about overtime. So what's the situation with overtime?
JD, can you answer that question for us? Because
It was before Marty
Yes.
started, when the council had the discussion about overtime, and then specific to public safety, we wanted public safety to proceed with overtime and then just report it out to us and give us a summary of overtime. But how is Public Works addressing that?
We're only using emergency overtime. That's been our standard. Last week when we had the rush down, we were out on overtime Monday. We worked some Tuesday, a few hours less on Wednesday, Thursday, and then it ended on Friday. We had the majority of everything we were kind of partnering up with Mid-Am cleaned up, so we haven't worked overtime on that this week.
So,
Your Honor, I'm sorry, I can't hear what JD's saying.
yeah, can you repeat all of that,
Yeah.
JD, please?
We worked overtime on Monday.
Can you hear okay, Alderman Parker? Okay, go ahead.
Overtime on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and some fewer hours on those days, and then on Friday, and then our work with Mid-Am, we were kind of trying to get to the different places where they were working on restoring power, and then we didn't work overtime this week. We haven't worked on this week.
Okay, so can we maybe incorporate that as report out for emergency situations and then also include it in the summary of the plan that you guys are coming up with to address
I'm
it?
also compiling the costs of cleanup for what we did over the past couple weeks, so I'll report back out on that. And we're also trying to compile information about the losses that businesses suffered from the thing. So I want to build a financial model, working with Carol. I keep giving her work. So I'll build a financial model so that in the future we can have a better handle on what these kind of things cost. So I also do want to mention.
We have a question by Alderman Parker. Do you mind if he interrupts? Alderman Parker?
Yeah, so this kind of goes back, probably back to JD more than anyone. Can you quantify or give me a little bit more on what we're talking about regarding overtime? You know, you said that you worked overtime and then you worked less overtime, but I don't know what that means. What is it per person? How many hours are we talking about per person? Are they working double shifts? Are they, what is some overtime and then less overtime mean?
We worked about 12 hours on Tuesday. I think it was about 10 hours on Wednesday, Thursday, and then I think it was 9 hours on Friday.
So is that, as a follow-up, so is that 9 hours of overtime or 1 hour after your 8 hour shift?
Correct, 1 hour after the 8 hour, one additional hour to their workday, I'm sorry.
So it's not a whole ton of overtime, right? That we're talking about?
No, it wasn't.
A couple hours a day per person, it sounds like.
Yes.
Thank you, JD.
Alderman Berg also has a question.
Follow that, JD. How many employees do you think were working those? I think you said 12 hours on Tuesday.
So we had,
and then so on and so forth.
We had probably 15 to 17 primarily on that, and we did assign some of the sanitation truck drivers when they finished their routes. We sent some of them out, and they also helped. So there were probably another 6 or 7 added to the team at that point.
Okay. Can I follow up with that, Mayor?
Yes.
Oh, and then the next question, I don't know, maybe if you could help. It was reported in the paper that it said that the city laid off employees, and obviously, yes, we chose not to hire the seasonal workers. But then it said that we're about 70 staff members short. Can you, I guess, trying to understand, are we 70 staff members short right now?
I didn't, Marty had said something to me about that. Administrator Max Seiner said something to me about that. And no, I think in Public Works, I wouldn't quote the number. I'd probably want to ask Carol what our number is short, but we aren't using any seasonals right now.
I'm sorry, can you say that again, JD? JD, are you near the microphone by chance?
Yeah, I'm right at it. So I said, Marty and I have talked about that some. I don't know the exact number that we're short in Public Works, so I'd have to get that for you, but we don't have any seasonal staff. And I know if Rod's connected here tonight, he can probably tell you how many seasonal staff he would normally have during this time of the year, but I wouldn't want to speak to that exactly without referencing Rod.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions about the storm cleanup overtime? All right, a couple other things I want to mention.
We do actually have one more question.
I'm sorry,
Alderman
yes.
Parker?
So Marty, this may not be exactly to the storm, but it kind of talks about cleaning up and things like that. And I was wondering, have we developed a plan for what we're doing with leaf vacuuming this year? You know, because we're talking about seasonal staff, we're talking about cleanup, we're talking about Public Works. To me, it kind of dovetails in there, even though it really isn't related to the storm that we had last week. What's our plan?
JD and Rod and I are meeting tomorrow to talk about that, so I'll be able to give you more information tomorrow. Right now, the plan is to continue with leaf pickup, leaf vacuuming. It's not been cut from the budget, so at this point, it'll continue.
Alderman Berg?
Sorry, another question. Marty. I got a call from an elected official in Rock Island about an hour ago, and they mentioned that they had a call from one of the constituents that said that asked Moline going to do as far as that. This is what they said. We have an arborist examining trees, and if they're dead, they're talking to the owners about cutting them. And they asked Rock Island if they were going to do the same thing. And I didn't believe we had anything like that in place. Is there something that we do have something like that?
So I think I picked up enough of what Alderman Berg is saying, that there was a elected official in the city of Rock Island that was questioning her about our arborist services to address dead trees on private property. Is that true? Is our arborist inspecting and diagnosing trees on private property?
I don't know the answer to that
Am I
question.
paraphrasing that right, Alderman Berg? You just start cutting out.
That's correct.
Okay.
I don't know the answer. I'm going to ask JD to answer it. If he doesn't know the answer, I will find out and let you know.
Mind if I ask Rod?
Thank you.
Rod, could you answer if Terry's, could you understand Alderman Berg's question?
Rod, are you with us? If you don't know, it's all right to
I
follow
don't
up.
know, Your Honor. We have Terry out on our crews, he's still cutting trees, so I don't know if he's had even time to assist with anything on private property, but I'll find out.
Do you know what the status is of the 80 trees that the Parks Department was cutting down?
Or the emerald ash borer trees
Yes.
that they had, I do not know, but we can get you that.
I'd be interested in that. Thank you. Alderman Parker.
Sorry, I have a bunch of questions, and I should have checked before in the last couple hours, but as of a couple hours ago, Morgan Park was still closed. When is that going to be opened up again? Or is it?
It's open now. I drove it on my way up here.
Oh, good. That's great. Thank you.
So we're going to get answers for you on the arborist and emerald ash trees. status.
Yeah, and the true staffing
Yep.
levels. I think we're
We'll get
looking
that.
for some information on that, because that was news to us. So we could get some
Okay.
clarification on that.
Not to prolong the meeting, but I got just a couple more things.
No,
Okay.
we're good. Go ahead. It's just the storm is kind of a big deal to us, so
Yeah.
we have lots of
Any other
questions.
questions?
Alderman
Oh, there's
Berg.
more.
Alderman Berg.
Can I ask a question?
Go ahead, Alderman Berg.
His comments, he said he doesn't have a microphone, and he answered the question.
Oh, in comments? What did he say? We can't see the comments.
The chat group, it said, we do not provide that service for private trees.
Thank you.
Oh, very good. One less question answered.
There you go. Carry on.
All right. So I just want to mention, we're all familiar with, well, you should be familiar with 2312 Fifth Avenue, which is the Vanch building. The RFP went out last week for that. The storm actually damaged the building even further. And so we've got currently $48,300 in liens against that building. If whoever is the winning bidder or proposal will have to initiate foreclosure action within 30 days of receiving that proposal. And hopefully over time, we'll get that building rehabbed and looking better. There is some concern that it's too far gone due to the storm damage. We had to go and shore up even more after the storm. So, but I want to let you know about that. Second, Munices. We're all familiar with Munices. It's the administrative enforcement arm that's run by State Regional Commission. There's 11 communities so far. The village of Oak Grove is able to participate. This council passed a resolution approving any additional participation by other communities some time ago. And so this doesn't need to go before the council, but I wanted to let you know about it. It just reduces our overall costs as you get more communities involved in the system. Early retirement packages went out on Wednesday. They had 30 days from Monday, yesterday, to accept those packages. And their last day of work would be October 8th. HR staff distribute those packets to all eligible employees on August 12th. And so we'll report back to the council when that deadline is passed, where we are with that. And that is all I have for today, unless there's any questions from anybody.
Does anyone have any other questions? Alderman Nguyen.
Hey, Marty, not a big deal, but last week there was a couple of topics we had asked you to come back with just a time frame on how long you thought it would be to get back to us on the stormwater and kind of the open pits memo, as well as the implementation of the bikeways plan. I was just checking in to see if we maybe had a time frame for when you guys may be able to report back on those things.
On stormwater and the bike plan, we hope to be back to the council on the next meeting, September 1st, with at least a report of what we think the timeline's going to be. So we have to consider staffing and how much. There's different levels of implementation and that we can get into. So I just want to lay out a plan that is makes sense to council with some options. So
okay, yeah, no problem. All right, thank you.
September 1st. Yep. Anything else?
Thank you for the
All right,
update.
thank you.
Appreciate it. Now we'll return our attention to the budget update. Carol Barnes, Finance Director, will be presenting.
Yes, thank you, Your Honor. And Don, if you can put up, there we go. We did receive about half of our top 18 revenues in so far here for the month of August. And fortunately, some of them are coming in favorably. So there's about 7 or 8 of them here I'm just going to kind of highlight. They're the ones that are in kind of the bright orange that are in the row going down through August. They're highlighted in orange. And then the yellow column over to the side, that is our year-to-date through August. I'll be kind of looking at both of those columns going back and forth. So if we look down to our state sales tax, for the month of August, our sales tax came in at $760,000. There is a 3-month lag on that sales tax, so that's actually for the month of May, which again was one of our hardest shutdown months. April and May were some of the hardest months. But with that $760,000 that came in, if you look over into the yellow column, very fortunately, to date, for those 8 months to date, we are pretty much right on target with budget. We're actually up about $40,000 year to date in our sales tax. Again, we've talked about this before. That's largely because we had an outstanding first quarter of revenue that came in prior to COVID. And so we're going to wait and see now as we enter the next 4 months to the remaining of the year where those numbers fall. But we're very pleased that the ones that came in now for August are up from the previous couple of months. The next one is home rule, and it's not as good as the sales tax. It continues to lag. We're down about $380,000 year to date on our budget, and it equates to about a 7.5% decrease from our budget. So again, that's the home rule. Then our income tax, again, pretty pleased with this one. Pretty close to being year to date on target with our original budget. We're down about $26,000. And if you recall, I think we've talked about this before. One of the things that did help our income tax is that all of the unemployment benefits are taxable. And so we're seeing some of that revenue come in now, that $600 per week extra benefits that a lot of our citizens were able to capture. If you take a look at August on the income tax, you'll see we've got $589,000 that came in for August as compared to $291,000 that we had projected for August. And the reason for that is if you look back into the May column, if you recall, the federal government gave us a 90-day extension on filing taxes. So back in May, you'll see that number under significantly, and then it was made up 90 days later when they came in July 15th, paid in August. And then the same holds true for our replacement tax. The same type of lag, there was a 90-day lag. In total, again, we're pretty much broken even. That's the corporate income tax. We're actually up about $5,000 higher than our original budget through August. Then skipping down to the utility tax, this is another revenue stream that continues to lag. We're down about 18% year to date from the original budget, or about $388,000. And again, with some of the businesses being closed, that certainly had an effect. And it's also some weather, related activity as well. But we are down $388,000 from the original budget. Then our local use tax, very pleased to say that number for August is the highest number we've ever had. And again, that is our internet sales tax, what's coming through. We're actually up about 19% year to date over our original budget, or $180,000. So that number continues to be strong, and it helps offset some of that home rule sales tax that is lagging. And then a couple of last ones here is our motor fuel tax. We've talked about this one before. That continues to be strong. It's in about 12% higher than our original budget, about $113,000. And then, as you know, we also are receiving that Rebuild Illinois, those funds. So when we bring our CIP in front of you here this fall, we'll have some additional revenue dollars for the council to appropriate. And then the last revenue here that I'll touch on is our video gaming tax. It's not large dollars, but video gaming was not allowed for a couple of months. Effective July 1st, we were able to do the video gaming again, and we received $32,000 for the month of August. We are down for the year about 26%, or $62,000. And the rest of the revenues we will not receive now till the end of the month, and so we'll give you an update. We possibly might be able to give you an update on September 1st on those. And then just a couple of comments. We've talked about this before, but as you know, we're in the process here of amending our current budget for council's consideration in September. And we will be taking a hard look at all these revenues, these 18 revenues, as well as all the revenues across all funds and all expenditures across all funds to bring a revised budget for you. And we are kind of targeting now the work session in September so that we'll have a little additional time so that we can talk through what a lot of those changes are. Any questions on the revenues? And if not, I'm just going to have a couple of comments just for your own viewing. I did enclose the July year-to-date financial statements on a cash basis for your review. We went through a pretty detailed review last month when we had June, so I'm not going to go through all the funds, but I did want to highlight the general fund, which is our main operating fund. Year-to-date, so excluding the budgets, just year-to-date revenue over expenditures, we are up $1.3 million through the month of July. And I'd like to say the department heads continue to hold the line on all of their spending. And now that we're also implementing this purchase order authority, Marty and I, we will be even viewing any purchases for the rest of the year and then ongoing. We'll be taking a very hard look at anything coming through. So I'm very pleased that the department heads are adhering to council's direction of holding the line on the budget. If you look through the rest of the funds, just as a quick update, all the other funds, for the most part, are status quo since we reviewed them in June. And that largely includes, the parks and the library, all the enterprise funds and all the internals. They're just right on the mark for where we had anticipated them to be. So we'll be going through all this in a lot more detail in September when we go through the amendments, but I did want to include that in your packets tonight so you could see the year-to-date actuals through July. And that's all I have, Your Honor. I'm happy to answer questions.
Thank you, Carol. Are there any questions for Carol this evening? We have one by Alderman Parker.
Thank you, Carol. Thanks for all this work. So when you come back to us with the amended budget, is that going to tell us where we are? We gave you a number of $10 million. I just was wondering, do you have a sense, is 10 million the right number? Is it too high, too low? Can you give us a little peek under the tent?
Well, a little peek under the tent. I am very hopeful it's going to be less than $10 million. I'm shooting more that it's going to be more in the $7 million range is what it's looking like. But all the departments, we are really trying to annualize our revenues. We're going back into 2-year history. We are really doing a deep dive on the revenues. But we do anticipate it to be better than what we had anticipated.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Alderman Went?
Thank you, Your Honor. On the other side of that coin, we had talked a few weeks ago about getting an understanding on our expenditures, because I think we were, I don't know, we had spent 43% of whatever the budget was through that time or whatever it was. And the question was, well, how does that compare to previous years? Or those previous years, were we always at about 43% at that point of the year? Or in previous years, were we only at 35%? Or were we at 55%? Have you guys had a chance to kind of look to see where we are on expenditures year to date as comparison to where we were on a cash basis in previous years?
Yes, and did you get the copy of that we forwarded out to the council? The 3-year history?
I was on vacation and I had sent you an email, and I had apologized if I had missed it. So,
okay.
Yeah.
We did prepare that, and I have not done a real in-depth analysis of that just due to time of working on the budget and whatnot. But in general, the flow was pretty close. There were a couple of items, I don't have it right in front of me, but a couple of things that make a difference. Back like 3 and 2, even 2 years ago, we were not doing monthly financial statements. So the timeliness of doing some of the entries like transfers and just keeping the monthly financial statements up to date, and I use the word gently, may not have been as timely as what we are now doing. And so there were some lags when I looked back on transfers that had not been done, like even through the 6-month period, hadn't been done year to date. But in general, most everything was comparable. And if you didn't get a copy of that, Mike, I'm really happy to send you another copy and we can kind of talk it through in general. But I broke it down for the general fund, the library parks, and the CIP, so you could kind of get a feel how that flow went. And then again, total across all funds.
All right, I appreciate it. I'll take a look. It may have been right as I was getting back or was on vacation. So thanks a lot.
I'm happy to send it to you again. There wasn't any huge variance. There's nothing that just stood out that was starkly different.
Thank you. Are there any other questions for Carol regarding the budget? I think that's it. Thank you so much, Carol, for the information.
All right, thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. I'd now like to open it up for public comment. Do we have any public comment this evening?
We did not.
And we don't have, Marty, do you have a comment?
I'm not public, but I forgot I want to mention something.
Sure, yeah, come on up. Thank you.
I failed to mention, during the storm last week, our generator at Fire Station 1 failed. And its original equipment, 1972, we got diesel fuel coming out of it, right? Yep, and kind of stunk up the finance department. Carol and her crew had fans going for a couple of days. Anyway, we have to replace it. And in the few questions I've asked the people who know this about this stuff, we're looking at anywhere between $75,000 and $100,000. Not only does it power the fire station and finance department, it also powers most of our servers, Don, is that correct?
All of them.
All of them, yeah. So very critical. In fact, because we don't have power, last night Don had to show up at 2 a.m. in the morning because we had a failure again of electricity. So very critically important that we replace that. I'll be coming back to you with some specifications and some recommendations on what we need to do with that. So
just for some history, was that on our facilities plan previously, or was it we were unaware of it being an issue?
I don't know. Do you know, JD?
that building is part of the facilities management plan. That component is, one of the features of the building, so yeah, it should be covered.
Was it part of the plan? Did we have it on schedule to be replaced, or were we unaware that it was?
Well, it's a failure of the fuel system. I think they've decided because of its age, I think is where some of this discussion is about replacing it, but
It was not, right?
but I don't think it's itemized like on the list as far as amortization, but I'll find out from Sarah. I'll find out if it's itemized on that list.
Yeah, I think that that'd be, something that we would definitely want to have incorporated into our facilities plan of aging like you would a vehicle. You know when it's probably past its useful life, and it certainly is a critical component, and so.
I think mechanicals on that are lumped in, but I want to make sure that that's one of the things lumped into her mechanical list.
Great. And then are we replacing it with a diesel-powered generator again?
We're
Is that what the
hoping that
plan
we
is?
can do natural gas,
Okay.
which will connect right to the grid. So we just
Good
now
plan.
need to make sure that the pressure and everything else is correct.
Good plan.
So we're gonna get everybody involved and specking it out and doing it right so that we don't have, so we've got another 30 years there.
Okay, but it will be funded from the facilities
Yes,
fund?
yes.
Okay. Thank you so much for
Yes,
that
thank you.
information.
Sorry.
Alderman Parker has a question. I'm not sure who to. Alderman Parker?
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly either, but on that, I know we don't meet next week, and I know that it seems like it's a timely situation. Do we need to provide authority to move that forward so you're not being held up by our decision?
I think what I'll do is get specs, put out an RFP, and then come to the council. So, it'll take a couple weeks just to do that. So I don't think it holds us up.
Do we have an emergency backup plan? Because we know our generator's no good right now.
I think JD was gonna bring a generator over from some of your stock.
Not to get too technical, but we're looking at a couple options with some switch gear to take a portable generator over there and hook it up just for his technology. And then we had Seneca out there today because it is just a fuel system failure for the immediacy of it. It's still a 50-year-old generator, but the immediacy was the fuel system failure, and Seneca was over there estimating that today to get the fuel system shored up on our current generator.
James did get ballpark figures. He said that depending on what was wrong, if it was just the line, it was gonna be about 10,000. If it was the line and the tank, 25,000.
So for those of you who couldn't hear him, he said Seneca, which is the company that's working on this, it's either $10,000 or $20,000 fix just for the fuel line.
So that's a little disturbing. I would entertain a motion to authorize staff to move ahead with the purchase of a replacement generator up to $80,000, $100,000 from the, sorry. Can I hear a
So
motion?
moved. So moved.
Thank you. We got a motion from Alderman Parker. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Alderman Berg. Is there any discussion? So the motion is to approve an expenditure of up to $100,000 to replace the fire station generator. Hearing no discussion, roll call, please.
Alderman Williams,
Aye.
Parker,
Aye.
Went,
Aye.
Potter,
Aye.
Moyer,
Aye.
Schoonmaker,
Aye.
Waldron,
Aye.
Berg,
Aye.
8 ayes, no nays.
That motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hearing no public comment and no further business in the committee of the whole, I would like to adjourn the committee of the whole. And we will begin with our council agenda. There will be an invocation this evening by Alderman Williams, but we will begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Lord, I ask you grant this council the wisdom to govern, that you bless and keep safe our city employees as they serve our neighbors, and above all, that you give our citizens the ability to seek and understand the truth. I ask this in your holy name.
Roll call, please.
Alderman Williams,
Present.
Parker,
Present.
Went,
Present.
Potter, Potter,
Present.
Moyer,
Present.
Schoonmaker,
Present.
Waldron,
Present.
Berg.
Present.
Your Honor, I request approval of Committee of the Whole and Council meeting minutes of August 11th, 2020. Resolutions. Council Bill 1089-2020, a resolution authorizing the mayor and city clerk to execute and attest to a collaboration and business associate agreement between the City of Moline and the Center for Youth and Family Solutions, setting forth the terms for an interagency collaboration.
Motion to approve the consent agenda?
Oops, I'm sorry, there's a couple more.
Hold that thought, Alderman Parker.
I'm sorry.
I still want to approve the, no, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Know when to go.
Council Bill 1090-2020, a resolution authorizing the mayor and city clerk to execute and attest to an intergovernmental agreement between the City of Moline and the Illinois Department of Human Services, setting forth the terms for acceptance of a grant award to the Moline Police Department in the amount of $5,280. Council Bill 1091-2020, a resolution authorizing the city administrator to implement additional purchasing controls and policies during the declared state of emergency.
As previously stated, motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
We have a motion by Alderman Parker, a second by Alderman Moyer. Roll call, please.
Alderman Williams.
Aye.
Parker.
Aye.
Went.
Aye.
Potter.
Aye.
Moyer.
Aye.
Schoonmaker.
Aye.
Waldron.
Aye.
Berg.
Aye.
8 ayes, no nays.
That motion carries.
Non-consent agenda resolution. Council Bill 1092-2020, a resolution authorizing acceptance of a change in terms to the City of Moline's outstanding note number 61379 with First Midwest Bank. Authorized.
Motion to approve.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's fine. I don't have to read the whole thing.
Motion to approve 1092-2020.
So as amended? Is that
Thank you.
Yes.
that one?
Yes, as amended.
Thank you.
Second, Went.
We have a motion by Alderman Parker and a second by Alderman Went to approve Council Bill Resolution 1092-2020 as amended in the Committee of the Whole meeting. Is there any discussion on that? Roll call, please.
Alderman Williams.
Aye.
Parker.
Aye.
Went.
Aye.
Potter.
Aye.
Moyer.
Aye.
Schoonmaker.
Aye.
Waldron.
Aye.
Berg.
Aye.
8 ayes, no nays.
That motion carries.
And that is all I have this evening, Your Honor.
Thank you so much. We'll now begin with miscellaneous business, and I'd like to go around the council chamber if you have anything that you'd like to discuss for council business this evening. Alderman Williams?
None, Your Honor.
Thank you. Alderman Parker?
Yeah, I have a couple things. Thank you. So the first thing is, and I don't know who this goes to, but I know several, it seems like months ago, Alderman Waldron, that's a fun thing to say, Alderman Waldron asked and we approved the removal of the stoplight on 16th Street at the old Garfield School, and it's still up and running, and I just was wondering what the plan was to get that taken down as directed by the council.
JD is approaching the microphone.
Okay, thank you.
So I had some communication with interim administrator Bonix and with Alderman Waldron, and we looked at the cost to have the signals taken out. From memory, and I'll ask one of you to jump in and let me know what you think. The stanchions, I remember, aren't a link that we use now because they don't cover the number of lanes. I think the cost, jump in and remind me, Mike, I know it was about $2,000 to $3,000 it was going to take to get it deconstructed and pull the bases out. And it wasn't anything we're going to be able to use. And so as my communication with Alderman Waldron and with Administrator Bonix, we determined that we weren't going to spend the money to take those out now. And we know that there's probably a $300 to $500 a year cost to have them operating, and that. But at this point in time, the decision was made not to remove them.
Can I follow up?
Yeah, Alderman Parker.
So a couple things. First of all, I mean, I appreciate the fact that you decided not to, but it was a direction of City Council to do that. And so I would have thought it would have been proper to bring it back to us. I haven't seen anything. I was wondering why that didn't happen. I mean, I trust that, you three guys know exactly what you're doing. However, because it was direction of council, it seems to me that it should come back to council to be amended or resolved not to do it. Is that correct, or do you guys just choose and pick and choose which ones you want to do and which ones you don't?
You want me to speak to that?
This is Marty, that's very fair criticism. Yeah, we should have told you, and the entire
So
city
when-
council, but I was,
So when you provide the updated budget, is that when we're gonna get exposed to what staff's decided not to do? Because I don't think we've had any of that kind of discussion about delayed purchases or delayed activities. Unless I missed it.
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know how to answer that question. I didn't know if it was in the budget for this year to remove it. I was told that it's going to cost a certain amount of money, that it wasn't worth spending at this time, and so and that's where we left it. I didn't realize it was a council directive at the time. It was communicated to me. So had I known, I would have communicated that. So fair criticism. We'll make sure that we take care of that kind of thing in the future.
So, but something I'm not criticizing, I'm just wanting
Yeah.
to know so that we'll understand when we get the revised budget, will it be to that detail so that we know of things that maybe we're expecting to have happen or the community is expecting to have happen and it won't happen? Will we know that in the budget or?
We will make sure you do, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, I don't know if that was in the budget to be removed, or is just a kind of, hey, let's check it out kind of thing?
I think it was
Check it out.
Alderman Waldron asked to have it checked out, and we did the checkout and reported back to Alderman Waldron, and I
Right.
reported back to Interim Administrator Bonix.
Alderman Parker?
So part of that too is because I live in the area and I drive 16th Street quite a little bit. During the power outage the other day, of course, that light was out, and half the people were stopping and half were not. And in the very few times I went up and down 16th Street, I witnessed like 3 near accidents of people that were stopping at that stoplight and others that didn't expect anyone stopping at that light or that signal, which was not working at the time. So it's kind of a safety hazard when we don't have that up and running. I wonder if it's a situation where we could simply remove the lights, if not the whole, the whole deal, just to because it's safety. Because nobody, if you're familiar with 16th Street, you realize that's not really a stoplight. However, when it's not working, it's a crapshoot as to figure out who's going to stop and who's going to blow through it.
We can look at it. We'll look at that and see what it costs to remove it. I don't see an issue with just removing
And leaving the stanchions?
Just leave the stanchions, but take away the light and take away the signs, and that way no one will be confused.
Alderman Nguyen, I think, has a comment regarding that.
Do we, and maybe we eventually got to this, but even with no power, don't we have the ability with our stoplights to change them to just blinking yellow?
That's what it is right now.
Not with no power.
I thought that there was some kind of battery or something, and maybe I was misunderstood that. But if there isn't, I thought that there was some battery with some of them on intersections. Is that not? That's not true.
I don't think we have any of that technology. I'll verify that, but I don't think we have any at this point.
That'd be great technology to have. Anyway, that's all I have on that one. I have another one, though. Is that okay, Your Honor?
Yes, please.
So I also remember a while ago, and I wish I knew how many meetings ago it was, I think it was Joe Kuhlenbeck talked to us about multiple number of projects that were available for us to use and I don't have the right terminology, but the COVID money for construction, and just throughout, 20 different possible projects. I haven't heard anything on that. Is there an update to that so we can get things started? We're moving pretty quickly out of construction season, and I was just wondering how we can spend that money down in the most impactful way, because I got an idea where to spend it, but I'd like to hear how to do it.
That's Rebuild Illinois money. I think we're going to get, and Carol, if you're still on the line, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's going to be $3 million over the next several years, and it comes in 6-month increments. We're going to incorporate those recommendations or those ideas that Joe brought to the council into our capital improvement program. So we will be back to the council with input and from you on the capital improvement recommendations.
So when's the earliest we could have access to the money if we had our plan?
Carol, did you hear that question?
Yes. Yes, I'm on the phone. We've actually received our first 2 payments. I believe it was 477,000 times 2, so just shy of $1 million that we currently have
So if we,
already in our account.
so if we had our plan established, that money's just waiting
Right,
for us to,
right.
well, we'd be,
Yes.
we'd be spending it to
Yep.
get our economy going.
Yep.
Yes.
So as a follow-up, when calendar-wise, when should we expect that? Because I'm not a big fan of waiting on these things. I'd like to get things moving, and we got a lot of opportunities to spend $1 million out there to fix our infrastructure.
We're planning on introducing capital improvement program as part of our budget proposals. So it'll be, Carol, what?
October.
Yeah, September, October, late September, early October.
So nothing's going to get done in 2020. It's the earliest it's going to be is engineered, and maybe 2021, maybe beyond.
That's my thinking.
Alderman Schoonmaker.
Wouldn't we have projects on the shelf that we've been working on that we could go ahead and move forward right now?
JD is approaching the microphone.
I want to go back and look at that list that Joe presented. If I remember right, I think there were a couple projects in there that were close to queuing up, but I can't remember. It was a pretty long list, and he had a variety of different things. And I'd need to go back and look at his list, Alderman Schoonmaker.
JD, before you leave the microphone, so we had a capital improvement plan this year. Were any of those projects delayed because of the budget restrictions?
The only thing I can remember, Your Honor, was sidewalks. I think that was the only thing that was put on pause.
All of the road projects continued uninterrupted.
Yeah, I can't think of any that you chose. Can anybody? I think it was sidewalks was the only one.
Thank you. Do you have anything else, Alderman Parker?
No, I'd just like to see the balance of 19th Avenue with an asphalt overlay, because we just opened up the brand new section of 19th Avenue, and Rock Island's got a brand new section of 19th Avenue, and in between 12th Street and 1st Street and Moline, it's like driving on the moon sometimes. So if that can get put on that list, I'd really appreciate it.
Thank you, Alderman Parker. Alderman Witt? You're on. There you
Sorry, I
go.
was muted. No, Your Honor, thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Potter?
Yeah, kudos to Don for coming in at 10 o'clock last night and keeping IT running up, being here till nearly 3 o'clock in the morning. Appreciate your efforts, Don. Nothing else, Your Honor.
Thank you. Alderman Moyer?
Nothing, Your Honor.
Alderman Schoonmaker?
Nothing further, Your Honor.
Alderman Waldron?
Nothing, Your Honor.
Alderman?
Nothing, Your Honor.
Thank you. And I want to give a shout out to everybody that participated in addressing the outcome of the storms, including our residents. You know, everyone from our safety staff to our public works to our partners at Mid-American and MediaCom, everybody that had to put in extra effort. I think that it was a really stressful time for our community, and I think it is a time that we need to remember that Mother Nature did that to us all. And we all came together to address the outcome of what Mother Nature did, and and just expressing my gratitude. That's all I have. I would now offer if anyone from our staff has anything that they'd like to comment on. Dirk's approaching the microphone.
I just want to make one correction. We're talking about the storm, and then we were talking about the 70 and the non-seasonal. Layoffs was used a couple of times. The only layoffs in Moline were from the library board, not the city. I just want to make it clear on the record. The city didn't do any layoffs. Only the library board did. So we've mentioned it a couple of times where we referred to the 70, including layoffs. That's inaccurate for anybody reporting on this. The city did not lay people off.
Thank you, Dirk. Anybody else? I'd like to open it up for public comment. There's no public comment this evening, and I believe there's no executive session. Is there any further business for this evening?
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you. We have a motion to adjourn by Alderman Waldron. Is there a second? Second by Alderman Potter. Without further business, we are adjourned.